Welcome to the debate. I mean, if you build a municipal water system, you understand that you need a sewer plant, right?
Right, of course.
You can't just pump clean water into houses and then pretend the wastewater disappears. Yet that is exactly how we treat our national freight network. We rigorously regulate a commercial driver's time behind the wheel, but we plan our land use as though those massive trucks just vanish into thin air the second the workday ends.
Yeah, it's a huge disconnect.
It really is. So today, we're asking a pretty tough question. Who gets to control this land? I look at this and see a disjointed system creating a massive safety trap for drivers. I'll be arguing that we have to prioritize national freight over local zoning resistance.
Well, and I'm going to argue that you can't just strip local communities of their right to protect residents from, diesel fumes and noise just because a trucking company failed to plan its logistics. The trucking industry relies on public infrastructure to subsidize its own failures. And honestly, communities have every right to push back.
But look at the trap we've built here. Every neighborhood eagerly accepts the widely distributed benefits of freight, grocery deliveries, fuel, e-commerce.
Oh, sure, we all love our next-day shipping.
Exactly. But then they turn around and veto the infrastructure required to actually process it. Because of this local resistance, drivers are actively pushed out of safe areas. And when their federally mandated hours of service clock, which is that strict electronic timer dictating when they absolutely must stop driving, when that clock runs out, they are completely trapped.
I hear you, I do. But labeling a concrete lot as essential infrastructure doesn't mean any random site is appropriate. Communities reject truck parking because the industry has a real track record of poorly maintained, completely unenforced facilities.
I mean, sure, there have been bad lots.
It's more than just a few bad lots. We're talking about concentrated noise, traffic congestion, and crime brought directly into residential neighborhoods. The failure isn't local zoning. It's an industry model where shippers and receivers flat out refuse to provide on-site staging. They are forcing their operational costs onto public land.
Okay, but by prioritizing retail over truck parking, municipalities create this massive geographical vacuum. You aren't eliminating the trucks by zoning them out. You're just cornering drivers into an operational crisis inside the cab. Aren't these municipalities essentially free riding on the national economy? I mean, they demand fully stocked shelves, but weaponize local zoning laws to push the physical burden of the supply chain onto neighboring towns.
I wouldn't call it free riding at all. Look at the economic reality you're asking a single town to absorb.
Which is what?
Well, when you drop a massive truck facility into a community, you get accelerated road wear, plummeting land values, and real health impacts from all that idling. The benefit of the freight corridor is national, sure, but the impact of that parking facility is hyperlocal.
Yeah, it's localized, but...
So it's completely rational for a zoning board to prefer housing that generates tax revenue over a gravel lot that just generates exhaust.
Except the Carrier's route planning is entirely dictated by rigid federal time regulations, which are currently colliding with a geographic shortage of land. Let's look at the data coming out of the DOT for 2025. Like 40% of truckers spend more than an hour a day just searching for parking.
Wow, a full hour.
A full hour. That is nearly an hour of unpaid work every single day just trying to park legally. When that electronic clock is ticking down, a driver is forced to race it, or they have to improperly use personal conveyance, which is basically flipping a switch on their logbook to claim they're off duty.
Right, just so they can move the truck to a safe spot without triggering a federal violation.
Yes. Wait, think about the twisted incentive this creates. We have a regulation meant to stop fatigue, but because parking is so incredibly scarce, it's actually incentivizing drivers to speed up just to snag the last legal spot. The safety rule is literally creating a public safety hazard.
I have to push back hard on that. The regulation didn't create the hazard. The lack of infrastructure did. Hours of service rules exist because fatigue kills.
But they're forcing drivers into impossible choices.
Maybe, but suspending or relaxing fatigue rules just shifts the infrastructure failure onto the safety of the general motoring public. We saw the tragic extreme of this back in 2009 with the murder of Jason Rivenburg, which, eventually led to Jason's Law.
Right, that was a terrible case.
He was killed at an abandoned gas station because he arrived early for a delivery and had literally no safe place to wait. That wasn't a failure of his fatigue clock. That was a failure of the shipper to provide a staging area.
His death was an absolute tragedy of missing infrastructure, yes. And I think it highlights exactly why local resistance is so dangerous. We enforce a federal law without providing a physical place to comply with it.
We do.
And the government's attempt to fix this is the $200 million infra grant tracked specifically for commercial motor vehicle parking in 2026. We need federal intervention to fix a national capacity constraint, especially for specialized needs like hazmat drivers or women drivers who face, honestly, severe personal security risks in unlit ad hoc spots.
Okay. Throwing $200 million of federal money at this might sound great on paper, but how does a federal grant actually overcome a local zoning veto?
Well, by bringing money to the table.
It doesn't, though. It just subsidizes the bad behavior of private warehouses. Trucking companies, shippers, and receivers are private entities operating for profit.
Right.
So if a warehouse detains a driver for hours, what the industry calls unpaid detention, where the driver just sits there burning their legal driving clock without making a single dime, and then kicks them off the property when their time expires, why is the federal government using taxpayer dollars to build a public lot down the street for them?
But are we really going to draw a hard line between private convenience and public safety here? Think about a private propane transport.
Okay.
Unsecured lot. Doesn't that private inconvenience immediately become a massive public safety threat to the surrounding community?
Yes, it becomes a public safety threat. I won't argue that. But the mechanism to solve it shouldn't be a federal grant trying to override local land use.
Then what should it be?
The mechanism should be accountability. Industry studies consistently point out that shippers and receivers need to provide safe on-site staging. A low freight rate supported by unpaid detention and public road staging isn't an efficient supply chain.
It's just a cheap one.
Exactly. It is merely transferring the cost of doing business to the driver and to the local community. Until shippers internalize those costs, public money just treats the symptom.
I hear you. But if we don't treat parking as essential national freight infrastructure, we're essentially demanding a functioning economy while criminalizing the physical reality of how it operates.
And my summary would be that until the freight industry and its shippers actually internalize the physical costs of their supply chains by providing their own staging and ending unpaid wait times, local communities will rightfully defend their land from being treated as a logistical dumping ground.
I think we both look at a fatigued driver parked on a highway off-ramp and see a systematic failure that endangers everyone on the road. The tension definitely remains over who holds ultimate authority over the land and whether federal funding or private accountability should lead the way.
Definitely. And there are so many more layers to explore here, particularly when you examine the complexities of seasonal staging for fuel fleets and how carriers can use data to negotiate better conditions with their customers.
Absolutely. We want the fully stocked shells, but we refuse to make space for the logistics that make it possible. Until we stop pretending that 80,000-pound trucks magically disappear when their electronic clocks hit zero, we're going to keep finding them in the dark, parked on the shoulders of the very highways we built for them.